Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dungeons & Dragons: The Second Age. How are we all?
Hello.
Good.
Great. What second age? I don't remember.
Wow, it has been a long time for some of us.
Yeah, what is second age?
Second age? I don't know her.
Wow.
Second
Wow.
age? I barely know her.
Anyway,
Terrible
Um,
side.
so does anyone want to recap what happened last time? Because it was essentially a very short session, because all that happened in the session was Kelariis fell unconscious and then woke up again. All in the space
Hey,
of
I guess
about
we don't have to
20
repeat
seconds, yeah.
Yeah, we have to
Weird.
nothing happened.
Ah,
Well, we did actually find the rod, the spears.
You did find the spear, yes.
Found a spear.
But I guess the whole
Yeah.
dream sequence
what's
was,
weird?
or I don't know if you want to call it the dream sequence, but
Flashback?
flashback.
Flashbacks that aren't your flashbacks.
Flashback.
Yeah.
Vision of the past.
Yeah, vision of the past sounds.
Vision of the past.
Yeah,
has the
a link
eyes
to the
of another.
past.
A
Link to the past.
There we go. It's a link to the past now.
Now
Oh, yeah.
Kelariis has to get a green tunic and wear it all the time. Yes.
But it clashes
There we
with
go.
my colors, guys.
Oh
No,
no!
Yeah, but
Come
well,
on,
we
I'm sure bronze and green works great.
yeah.
Eh.
So we got to see the story behind Jasmal and the heroes of Mardan,
Yes.
and I don't know
Heroes
how
that we knew nothing
in depth you
about
want to
until
go
we
into that,
saw
but it's
their
like killing of the ruler or
Yep.
at the time and all that stuff.
Yeah, you essentially experienced a series of events that were notable moments from the history of Jasmal Bashar, revealing how she came to become the hero of Mardan and champion of Tritherion, and you could almost say her fall from favour, or rather, recession from favour through
Guess
her
I'll just never
choices. Well, you had the option to watch the VODs.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
All these goddamn
Double
recessions.
speed.
Just stop giving the bankers
Well-
money.
I guess there's one important thing that happened in the dream or in the flashbacks.
Yeah, and that's
And
that
that's
happened
that
to push
we-
someone off a wall.
Well, no.
No.
What we learned is that Jasmal's not actually buried here.
No.
Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
That is probably the biggest deal so far.
Yeah, you found that the
All alone.
final resting place of Jasmal Bashar is a lie. A deception fabricated by Jasmal herself to allow her to escape her responsibilities as the hero of Mardan and leave the spear behind for somebody else to carry the burden of. At which point, yes, Kelariis was snapped back to the real world, much to the distress of the rest of your companions, because she almost pitched forward and smashed her head open on a coffin. Were it not for V catching her at the last second.
That could have been horribly ironic.
Wow.
But yes, you broke the only pillar in the room to discover that it was, in fact, a false pillar containing the spear. Which was then promptly wielded by Kelariis to some interesting effects.
Yeah, it can kind of talk to me.
It can talk to you. It may or may not be mildly sentient.
It may or may not be mildly.
You know, maybe leaning more towards maybe at this point.
Yeah.
Probably, definitely.
There's a very slight possibility of serious sentience.
Serious.
Well, as the item's description reads, upon its discovery, the Spear of Tritherion revealed itself as a sentient artifact, a living instrument of justice. Whilst it lacks the senses beyond an innate telepathic connection to its wielder, Crelestro contains a wealth of combat knowledge, gleaned from previous champions and ready to be unleashed during times of trial.
Justice.
Crelestro!
And it also has a bunch of really neat abilities.
Congratulations, you
Yes.
are now the White Ranger.
Wow.
What? All that we need now is for Crelestro to talk to birds and we're fine.
Wow. I'm the one who talks to birds.
This is true.
No, we know. Yeah,
So-
we can steal these rolls.
We resume our adventure then in the catacombs. And I believe the final intent that you guys came to was that it's time to go back to the surface, having gained everything that you were looking for down here. Unless there
Heaven
is.
still here?
We hadn't quite got that far yet.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Heaven was back at the beginning, wasn't he?
He's in the chamber just beyond where you are currently.
He was about halfway between us and the spear. Living on a prayer.
I was gonna
God.
say, who's gonna make the joke?
Anyway, so yeah, you guys are still sat in the chamber, having decided that perhaps the best thing to do is go back to the surface and resolve what it is that is left to do here.
We gotta kill the thing. The guy.
The guy.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Adiacalis.
The fiend.
The guy.
We hadn't really set up a plan yet. Well, we had an
have
idea,
not.
but it's
Had an
The
The
idea,
idea was
but it's
terrible.
Very
it
rusty.
wasn't terrible. It's just it has already fallen apart because it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's why it's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah,
So-
that is kind of the definition of a terrible plan.
Are you guys sitting in here and having a discussion, or are you... Because you are still, like, 7 days from the surface.
Let
Yeah,
us
we should
walk
probably
and talk.
move.
Yeah, we should walk in.
Walk and talk.
Lock it. Walk and talk.
Yeah.
Off it.
Let's walk and
Ba,
talk.
ba, 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 ba.
So... yeah, as you set out, you walk back into the large chamber with the now shattered statue, where the Ghost of Heaven and the
Sphinx.
Sphinx, yes, are still sort of patiently awaiting your return.
Oh.
Well, actually, no. I break on that because the Sphinx disappeared because the Sphinx went back to
Oh yeah.
Celestia.
Sphinx wandered off.
Yeah,
I think.
Just have it.
the Sphinx disappeared. So it is simply Heaven sitting in a chamber, slowly putting this thing back to this statue back together.
Yep. That statue. Still feel a little bad about that, but you know.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, probably as we come back into the chamber, like, I'm still holding Celestra, like, I haven't
Yeah,
holstered it yet, probably.
yeah, okay. So yeah, I think Heaven sort of turns towards you as you enter, and as you guys walk in, he sort of stands there admiring you guys walking towards him for a moment. Well, you succeeded then.
Seems so.
Strange. I see you standing there holding it, but it's almost as if it's still her.
It's almost like they're similar.
Gasp. Who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed?
So what's the plan?
That's a good question.
Yep, that's a real good question.
I mean, kill a fiend who's currently in Mardan,
Corrupting
pretending to
government.
not be a fiend.
Yep.
Yeah, first we have corrupt government to deal with, then... Well, that's a good question.
Oh, I feel like corrupt government is a good place to start.
Well, there's also the whole Dread Legion thing, but that might come up.
Yes. But I don't feel like we can really do much still after we've dealt with, well, this, or what we're going to deal with next.
Heaven sort of like folds his arms and raises an eyebrow and says, "So, hellish corruption in the highest tiers of government and legendary death cults. Doesn't sound like the world up there has changed much since I left it."
It would seem not.
Not great.
And that's not including the pocket dimensions, the curses of wildlife up in the Elven lands. You know, wild time.
Sort of nods knowingly. Well, at least there's folks like you out there still.
Well, we do our best.
It's all we can do.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do now? Is your duty over?
He sort of sits there for a moment, contemplates the statue, and sort of says, I thought maybe after 600 years of guarding this place I'd know what to do with myself when I was done, but I'm still here, so...
Are you bound to this place specifically? Or are you free to, well, roam the outside world?
I don't know. The oath I swore to Tallithsyr was to protect the spear, to make sure it never fell into the wrong hands.
I guess you could always try come with us.
No.
Somehow, I don't think that would work out.
I can't see.
There'd certainly be a lot to fill you in on, for starters.
And heaven doesn't belong here.
No.
That is true.
Sort of puts his hands on his hips and seems slightly offended. What exactly do you mean by that?
Because this is the living plane. It's for the living.
Point taken.
You got a point.
Can't you just pray really hard to Tallithsyr and he might release you from this, whatever it is?
Would you not want to go back to friends?
I mean, isn't
and
his
family?
role basically finished? Because
Yeah.
he was
like,
here to guard the sphere, and now we have the sphere.
That's what I thought. I don't know, maybe...
Well, there is one thing you could do whilst you wait. I guess you could you could rebuild that statue and see if there are other worthy people that come by.
But what would he give them?
Well, the proof of their worthiness.
No!
I
Like,
think
yeah,
he is pretty against all this.
but till it's resolved, I don't see what else we can do. Although I guess we could. Has anybody actually killed you, like as a ghost?
Can you kill a ghost?
Until you guys came along, no.
But you came right back.
Well, you didn't quite knock him out, but
Okay, quickly, someone Google search, can you kill a ghost?
Wow.
I think Google search is called,
How-
like, commune.
Yes.
How-
Commune.
Yeah.
how to make ghost trap.
well,
And ghost capturing lasers.
Wow.
Late.
Well, have you tried talking to Tallithsyr since?
To be honest, it's not quite felt the same since I was dead. I don't know, maybe... It doesn't feel like I'm ready to go yet.
V in her mind. Well, you fucking better get ready.
Yeah.
Could there still be something that you want to achieve while you're here?
Not that I can think of.
Well, in that case, can we just leave you here?
I mean, it's not like I can stop you.
Well, as mostly the others I'm thinking about. Like, I don't see why not. It's not like you're gonna run out of time to do whatever you gotta do.
But if he can't do it himself,
Well, then he's always welcome to find help. But if we can't help if we don't have anything to help with.
Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone have like any spells that would be relevant to like
was there something
getting
that
rid of a ghost?
was there something that troubled you at all while you were still alive? An unanswered question or something like that?
No? Died as happy as I could be.
I guess the next obvious question would be, have you tried praying to Trifarian since we've gotten the spear yet?
Yes, it never felt the same. I can still feel him. Like, I still have that connection. It's what I suspect is partially keeping me here.
I was more thinking along the lines, did he say it? Did he respond in any way, shape, or form to your, message?
He never really was big on talking to anyone other than Jamal. Sure, there were visions, but
I could try to talk to him on your behalf, or get him to see if he'll respond.
can't
Yo,
hurt.
Tritherion.
It's like, hey, Uncle Tritherion, what's up? I got your spear.
I got your spear, bro, and there's a dude here who'd like to go home.
He's past his
Back to his
shift.
family and his friends.
His working hours are over.
Unless, and I guess like I look to V and say, unless you have another idea.
No, not really. The only thing I could try is one thing I already kind of tried during the whole statue thing, and it didn't work.
What was it?
Oh, but wasn't the statue preventing that?
No, it's the blight spell,
Oh,
and it doesn't work because necrotic damage is like, it doesn't work against undead. But my point was that like, since we usually flavor it as like V basically sucking the soul out of people.
Yes.
It could like, flavor-wise, it maybe could have worked, but Rob didn't allow it. So
No.
Yeah,
Well,
fair.
you know that it works against other kinds of undead, but heaven seems to be special. There is something directly rooting him here that he just cannot be destroyed by conventional means.
Well, do you know any magic, Ethan?
No.
That's not very useful then.
Wow.
No, I was like, if you could like message or whatever, then we could just bugger off, and then if there's something he needs to say, he can say it, and then we can deal with that later instead of just us sitting here and doing nothing.
Well, like you said, we could try asking.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, looks to Kelariis.
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna just like kneel down in the middle of everyone staring at me and be like, alright, time to pray.
it's like a stressful
to kneel
kind of
down
version
to
of
pray.
praying.
Yeah.
Like everyone's
Yeah.
looking
Once
at
they get
you.
to kneel down to pray.
Being peer pressured into prayer.
Yeah. Oh god, it's just like going back to my fucking like school.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm loving this mental image of the Kelariis is just sort of there like, okay, let's do this. And then everyone else is just like, should we just leave the room, or...
I shuffle slightly to the... Oh, well there's like the rubble of the statue, right?
Yeah.
I guess like I kind of shuffle slightly around so I'm not just like standing right next to everyone, because
Yeah.
it feels like it's different when I'm like praying to Trither in combat versus like, you know, out of combat in the sense
Yes.
of... Yeah, so I guess I do that and kind of...
Yeah. Yeah, you can sort of like kneel in front of the remains of the statue.
Yeah, like, also sorry about your statue, you
Yeah.
know?
I don't think Justinian's big on statues anyway.
No, but
No.
still.
Yeah, so you kneel down and you pray. And for the first time you can feel, despite the infinitesimally large distance between you, you get a similar feeling to the first time you knelt in prayer at the altar in Silverbrook, where it's almost as if there's an incorporeal hand on your shoulder and a presence behind you. And yeah, you hear the familiar voice that you're used to that actually almost seems to be... Now that you hear it, it's a similar voice to what you heard when you picked up Crelestro.
Oh, huh.
And it says, "What is it that you wish of me?"
I've... V, please. I'm trying to think how she'd word that. I wanted to ask on behalf of Heffen that if his duty is done, that he be let go. He's kept the spirit, he's kept Crelestro safe, and it's in my hands now, and I think that maybe it's his time.
When we made our agreement, his duty was only to the spear. If you feel his duty is done, then only you can release him from it.
Only you can prevent forest fires, kids.
God damn it! Only you can bring
Only you can prevent.
I think Kelariis is a little surprised by that, because it's like, oh, okay, I guess.
Only you can prevent a ghost from being trapped in an underground tomb for the remaining centuries.
Well, then I think it's his time.
Then tell him that.
I will. I feel like I want to ask him a lot of questions, but I also feel like this isn't the time nor the place to do so. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
No, I think, okay. I think it's like, there's the hesitation of like starting to speak a little bit and then like stopping and doing that a couple of times. And then just being, I have questions, but I don't think that this is when I don't think this is the time to ask them. But I do have them.
Find me at the right time, and I will answer them.
Thank you.
The presence withdraws.
Yep.
Wow, that was surprisingly way easier than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, it was like, okay, well, that's really awkward. I don't know how I feel about having the power to be like, oh, you're right, you can stay here for the rest of your existence, or like, now you can go. I mean, obviously I'm gonna do the, letting him go, but that's still a weird thing to know that I have the power over.
I mean, I guess it's only like with Tritherion specifically, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's literally specifically for heaven, but like that's still a really weird thing to have as like.
Yes.
That's
It's it's a source of great annoyance to two people specifically in the universe.
Wow.
One of those people is in our
sorry?
party.
Wow. Wow.
So-
Can't believe.
Yeah.
Also, at least when faced with the option of binding something into servitude or letting it go, you at least chose the letting it go option. Unlike somebody in this room.
Wow. What a
Wow.
callback.
Cough, mini cough.
Those were different times.
Wow.
You still got the evil tag.
No, I
but he
didn't.
was
Cav
still
did.
a lizard.
Yeah, I
He
know.
was still a lizard. Classic lizard.
Anyway,
Anyway. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess I go back to heaven and look like. Not uncomfortable, but kind of like, this is awkward now, because. Yeah. And. I kind of just. I guess I, like, stand before him and say, if you are ready to go, your duty has been done. Tritherion says it was within, I guess, my power now that I have Celestro to release you, so I do that. Looks like really awkward about it.
yeah.
Mildly uncomfortable. But thank you for everything that you have done and for how long you've been here.
Well, thank you for considering that.
It was a pleasure to meet you. And I hope you find peace.
Well, guess I'll have to find something to do. Sort of turns back towards where the statue would have been, where it's still intact. Sort of looks up at it and sort of says, "Well, I guess I am ready for something new." And with that thought, a stream of golden dust begins to sort of seep off his form and disappear into as like motes of light off into the darkness. And yeah, he disintegrates into a golden dust and disappears.
I guess like I look to V because she's kind of been the most like adamant about the whole thing. It's like I hope that was alright.
I mean, it's alright. It's just that I think that the whole point of death is that no one's really ready for it. So the whole thing about like, I don't think I'm ready for it is kind of weird. Or like, you should be ready for it. Like, no, no, most people, like, no one is ready for it. That's, I don't know. It just is.
That's fair. But at least we were able to keep him from, being tied here for however long.
I mean, it was all Tritherian's fault in the first place.
A fault is a strong way of wording it, but yeah, it was his doing, you're right.
At least,
Can't believe.
unlike in a lot of cases of this happening, it was an agreement of two parties. Unlike
I don't
the case
think
with a
V.
lot of other-
Yeah.
V gives Vondal the squinty eyes.
Yeah. Hands on hips, pouting squint.
No, it's just the squinty eyes.
While I do not say that makes it okay, it's still. Better than a lot of other cases.
think it's all the same, but we should get out of here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm a god. I can do whatever I want. I can make people live for, like, centuries. Not
I
that
mean, it's-
people who don't live centuries aren't cool or anything, Arya.
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with living for centuries. Not that
I mean,
yeah,
but to
people
be
living
fair,
for
my
centuries.
lifespan
She
is
says as two
natural.
members of the party have lived for centuries.
Yeah.
Look,
My
I will
life-
live a long time too. I'm not saying anything. It's
fine.
There's only one person who it's really awkward for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and let's be real, Kelariis is probably gonna live longer than her life expectancy anyway, so.
watch me.
Wow.
Damn.
At
B's
this
gonna
rate,
come
fucking
for
B's
you.
gonna turn into next season's villain. Fucking hell.
That's the actual ultimate villain is B just goes
The
and
avatar of
decides
life.
that she has to kill Kelariis because
Just
Oh,
don't
God.
make me kill you.
Wow! What
Oh my
did you
God.
actually say that?
No. This whole conversation is out of character.
Okay, look,
Yeah,
I
because
just
we
needed to
have-
clarify.
You heard it here first, guys. See, the season's 2 villain is the avatar of life, who seeks to end the
Wow.
unnatural processes by
Also-
which life is enhanced through
Also,
undeath.
that's making a very bold assumption that Kelariis will not accidentally get herself, like, fucked up
that's true.
Yeah.
because she
Yeah.
bites off more than she can chew. Like, that's a very
Kelariis is
real
definitely gonna bite
possibility.
off more yeah, Kelariis is definitely gonna bite off more than she can chew. I don't think Kelariis is gonna be like old lady in a rocking chair.
That doesn't
Like,
seem
stories.
like her style.
she's getting better about it, but that doesn't fix itself overnight.
No one is perfect.
Cool.
Anyways,
But also, even if she did get old, she seems like the kind of person to just keep going even at the same level, even though
Yeah.
like old age is having negative effects.
I could see that.
So, you guys make your way backtracking, following your path through the catacombs. And without much incident at all, really, you guys basically make it back to the surface. It takes you less time than it did to get down, because you're not quite as slowed by battle and effects, and Arya, having traversed this once, traversing it a second time is significantly easier because you don't have to sort of consult the map all the time. You know the way back. You've left trails to make it easier to retrace your steps. And aside from a few interruptions from some creatures that are perhaps more easily banished than you would have found in previous adventures, things sort of predatory things that live in the dark, giant spiders, that sort of thing, are easily seen off with adequate preparation and abilities. You guys essentially make it back to the underside of the archives, where there is a solid stone wall.
Oh yeah.
I guess we've had plenty of long rests by now.
Yes, you've had like 5 days worth of long rests.
nice.
Right, let's get this wall out of the way. Stone shape.
Okay,
Make a doorway.
you reform the doorway from the wall of stone, and yeah, you step out into the lower storage levels of the archives.
Oof. How long have we been in this fucking dungeon?
Week and a half.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet sunshine.
Oh,
Well, not quite yet. You're still in the basement.
You are looking the. Oh.
Yeah,
Maybe-
okay, fine. Sweet, sweet, not musty air.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
It's
fair.
okay. You can.
Well-
It's okay. Soon you'll be able to have natural sunlight rather than
Yeah.
magical sunlight.
Alright, we're getting close.
It definitely is a lot warmer up here.
I almost had forgotten what it feels like not to breathe like 50% dust.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a mood.
20... Yeah.
it does feel good to free up the lungs a bit.
Anyway, we should probably tell the library that there's not gonna be any more like zombie mummies, dead people coming
Yeah.
out the door.
As you're having this conversation, 2 guards sort of proceed tentatively down the stairs.
Hello.
They're sort of surprised to sort of see you, and they're just sort of like, hello.
We're back.
Yes. Yeah, we returned from the catacombs.
We found the reason for our mummy incursion.
Oh,
It appears a mummy lord had been making preparations several levels down. Raiding tombs, that kind of thing.
the 2 guards sort of look at each other, concerned but a little perplexed.
Long story short, there should not be a problem anymore.
That's
Bes-
good to hear.
Besides the usual, on the usual trash that lives in the catacombs, like spiders and stuff.
Still probably a good idea to keep it sealed. In some way.
Well, I think the normal door will do this time.
Yeah, but we need to install a normal door.
Yeah, but I think we have more important things to do.
Well, if
We
the
do, but
if the dangers in the catacombs are cleared, I'm sure the city will want to reclaim some of its history. I mean, we handled monsters in the catacombs before. It's no different than the monsters that live outside of the town, but
Yeah, there's no big broken statue or anything.
Wow.
I'm not sure why you would say that.
I think
anyway,
this is
we
something
have-
best left to the
Yeah,
city.
we have
Wish.
other things to attend to now that this has been resolved.
Oh yes. Yes. There was a message actually left for you. I forget his name. One of the paladins from the Order of Torm has requested your presence when you get back.
Guy whose name I always forget. We gotta
Rarai.
him.
Oh yeah, he doesn't have a thing. I'll
Yeah,
give
he
him a
doesn't
thing.
have
Yeah, I was
thing,
looking for him in the fucking Mardan thing, and I was like, fuck!
Every time I
Where is
forget
he?
his name, I go to look through there and go, oh, he doesn't have one. I'm like, what's his name?
Did it sound urgent?
Not particularly.
Oh.
Well,
Well, that's
yes, I will at the very least head
Less
up there
worried.
myself to see him.
Yeah. The only thing he mentioned was that that he wanted to see you pretty sharpish and yeah, that something about bringing anything that you find. I don't really know what that means.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we shall go and we shall see him urgently. Thank you for passing on this message.
Oh, by the way, Rob, because I have the Forbidden City on me. How big is this staff? Am I just carrying this around openly?
It's as big as your big stick, so it's decently
Fuck!
big.
Oh, okay.
Like it looks like just a regular magic staff without like close inspection, but
Okay. I'll still put like the blanket I have, I think, around the actual like important part.
yeah, you can like bundle your blanket over the end of it and sort of strap it down. Yeah, it's not immediately obvious to.
Suddenly, the Forbidden City is shrouded in darkness.
Let's just move on.
yeah.
It was in
Also,
a
you say
dungeon
suddenly,
for so
it's been
long.
it's been in a deep catacombs in a chest for God knows how long.
Oh, I know.
It's been literally.
Well, technically it was leaning on top of a chest, but yeah,
It was
Whatever.
still dark in there.
it was
We're
very
in a
dark.
dark
Yeah.
room.
But it's funny to think that like V throws a blanket over it, and then suddenly it's just like darkness.
Ah,
Yeah.
Eclipse!
It's the end
Oh!
of the world,
They just start screaming.
Anyway,
You zoom deep within the
Oh
forbidden
God,
city.
Luka.
Deep within the forbidden city, a woman's voice is heard. Oh, baby!
anyway. So, are you guys heading to the temple?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Heading to Rarai.
Cool.
Wait, Minnie, you need to add like 5 days to the bar tab.
Oh
Yes, yeah, you do.
I'll put it on your tab.
Okay, wait. We're up to 17 days, so that's
Okay.
Oh,
Oh my god.
That's like what, 2 of the platinum coins that you found in the tomb?
yeah.
Wait, is it that expensive?
It's decently expensive.
yeah,
We
we
bought
went to a
it
nice
something
place.
expensive.
Remember?
Yeah, you guys are paying for like top quality accommodation.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and it's
know,
like
but I didn't think
for
it was
all
like-
of us, right? Like that's not like each, I think.
Yeah, it's like for all of you.
Also, isn't
Yeah.
2 platinum coins just 20 gold?
Yeah.
Yes.
So like for 17 days, that's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Alright.
And actually, technically, you'd be paying slightly less because you're not being fed. So
Woohoo!
Eh. I mean,
No
Anyway.
delivery service in the catacombs.
oh, could
I'm
you
sorry, we
imagine?
don't deliver to your address.
anyway, you managed to cross town. I guess everybody give me a perception check as you cross town.
Oh no, I forgot to do the thing.
Ah,
Who's Menno?
guys.
What a
How are we terrible?
I mean, you're basically blind from being underground this long and walking out into the sunlight.
It's like we're drow, holy shit.
Yeah, yeah, you are slightly sunlight sensitive for a few hours.
God damn.
Especially Arya, jeez.
I love how even like if we all had advantage, I would have had the only decent roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, like 12 is decent, but it just get a -1.
the city seems much as it was when you left it. With the exception that, like, there seem to be slightly more guards on street corners than there was previously. But considering the circumstances when you left, that's probably not surprising.
Mm.
Yeah, well. You know, guards.
Just
Mhm.
guards.
I mean, yeah, like buildings were on fire. There was the whole hospital thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely seems to have been more of a... Like, the guards seem to be on a slightly higher... At least in... The numbers of guards seem to be slightly higher, at least in large open public spaces. And as you approach the temple, you do actually notice, basically in the courtyard in front of the Temple of Torm, there are probably about 5 or 6 guards more than there were previously. And the guards seem to sort of like stand stiffly to attention as you go past Vondal, and sort of they seem to be seen to be making a distinct effort to appear like they're doing their job.
Mm.
But yeah, you enter the temple, and much like every single time you've ever been here, Rarai is at the altar.
Jeez, this boy needs to get out more.
He reminds you a lot of you when you were younger.
Yeah, and I needed to get out more.
Hmm.
Then again, I found it was much harder for me to get out because I didn't live in the middle of the city. I lived in a mountaintop.
Yeah, you lived in a monastery on top of a mountain, but
Wasn't really much else there.
he seems to have the same level of devotion that you did when you were younger.
Yay. Anyway, shall approach him. and say, "We have returned. You wanted a word?"
Yeah, he sort of stands up, almost like he stands from his kneeling position in a way that can only be described as keen. And he sort of turns to you, and he tries to maintain his aura of composure, but he's quite excited to see you. And he says, "Good. I'm so glad you're back."
It's good to be back after being down there for, well, better part of 2 weeks.
Yes, I'll admit it, until I got your message, I was quite concerned for your well-being.
Though, I'm sure you'll agree that a more private surroundings would be better suited for our talks.
Yes, that is precisely what I had in mind. I would direct you to the normal chambers that we have spoken in before, but they are currently in use. I think perhaps it would be best if we talked in my master's home.
Very well.
Okay. Yeah, and he leads you out the back of the temple through the cloister door into the courtyard that's full of monastery residential buildings that you had been into previously. And yeah, Raya leads you to the place that he calls home. The old master is still sort of sitting there in the chair, reading quietly, stoking the fire occasionally. Yeah, much as before, Raya requests some privacy from the master, and the master sort of begrudgingly gets up and goes into the back. And he says, "So, a few things have happened while you were gone, but I think perhaps first you should tell me exactly what it is that you found."
Well, I guess dealing with the most pressing issue first, we found the Forbidden City. I will sort of gesture to V.
Yeah, I'll unwrap the staff.
He regards it with wonder for a moment, and then sort of goes to reach out to almost like take it from you, and then sort of stops and is like, I must say I am amazed. I frankly did not put much stock in the old stories. But here it is, clear as day.
Can I insight check him? I feel like I would be sure like that he's who you think he says he is.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too, Minnie.
Sure, you can insight check him.
Oh, Minnie!
Wow.
I mean, Luka, if you're suspicious, feel free to inside check.
I mean, yeah.
Fucking close to the tab like an idiot.
Luka has crashed out of Roll20 by the look of things.
Yep.
No, I think she said she closed it on accident.
Oh, you closed it by accident, okay.
Yeah,
While that's happening,
No, I just felt like this story was like a good time to like check him. But
Sure, yeah, you don't notice anything out of the ordinary. Like, he is sitting in front of you, sort of like, if somebody told you that Atlantis was real and then showed you like proof that Atlantis is real, it's the same reaction you'd expect to have.
oh, good.
Yeah, like Vondal will probably just say like, there are, though they can seem very outlandish, there is often at least a small notion of truth to a lot of stories that simply gets buried under decades or even centuries of exaggeration.
Yes,
Got to have a good story to tell, after all.
I suppose, yeah. Forgive me. I was always taught to question things, and sometimes my questioning goes as far as disbelief for things that I perhaps should not disbelieve. It is not my place.
There's nothing wrong in questioning things. Sorry, I also assume we're all there
Yeah.
because, like...
Yeah, you're all in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are noticing the same thing. He is surprised by something that he just assumed was like myth and legend. Because from an out of game sort of context, this is magic done even beyond like 9th level spells. So this is like grand sorceress achievings that took multiple wizards to do. Like, it is an impressive artifact, and there is a good reason that people disbelieve that this is possible.
You know.
Yeah, I think Vondal probably just saying, try this instead. Instead of questioning whether something is true, question how much of it is true.
He sort of he smiles and says, "You know, you sound exactly like my master."
Before we
And
figure out,
and given that every time we come in here, you are found in the same place, well, you remind me a lot of me.
but before we, decide what to do with it, you should probably also be aware that this artifact is currently sought after, and if it falls into the wrong hands, a lot bigger problem than the council is gonna arise.
Yes.
This is after all what the UNT were looking for.
Yes.
I believe I may have a solution.
Oh.
There is a vault beneath this cathedral. A number of our relics and things are stored in there, and it has more than a notable number of guards and wards protecting it, both magical and physical. I think perhaps if no one knows about it, it would almost certainly go unnoticed there. The only people with permissions to handle it are myself and my master, at least without express written permission from a higher power.
Well,
Then it certainly seems the safest place that is within easy access.
yeah. Though if word gets out, I would not be surprised if the UNT will try and set up an army. 'Cause they will do anything to get their hands on that thing.
Well,
They do have a lot riding on it.
if we are the only ones who know about it, I'm slightly less concerned about the dangers of the UNT.
But then what do we do about it with it for now?
I just realized we didn't check this room for any scrying or anything, did we?
Nope.
I guess we might as well. Like, can anybody detect magic? Or who?
No.
I can't remember.
Not unless you give me 10 minutes.
I mean, you can have 10 minutes if you need it. Do you actually have it prepped?
Oh wait, yeah, I can't ritual cast.
Yeah, you can't ritual cast unless it's prepped. Only wizards can ritual cast unprepped
Yeah.
spells.
And bards.
And bards.
In that case,
Is
I
it
can't
bards
ca-
as
in that
well?
case, I
I can't
can't
remember.
cast it.
Bards can ritual cast.
Oh no, like everybody can ritual cast, but I think only wizards
right,
can
right,
ritual
right.
cast unprepped
yeah, that's
spells.
only wizards.
Yeah.
In that case, I can't cast it.
Well-
Oh, and warlocks with Book of Shadows.
Oh.
Aside from that,
Aside from that.
Well, I guess.
So no is the answer. Not right now.
I guess like, well, if anybody was listening, they already know by now. But I was hoping to double check.
though, given your master has access to this location, it's advisable he knows at least as well, I suppose. Last thing we want is him suddenly finding it there and questioning how it got there.
If you think that is advisable, I will let him know.
Have you met this guy's master?
Yeah, he was literally in the room like 10 seconds ago.
Yeah, we hijacked
Oh,
the
right,
room.
right.
He's basically like an old he's an old balding human who seems to spend more time reading and reading than anything else, rather.
Basically, he's Vondal, but 10 times grumpier and much older.
Well, if you've ever met an old member of the clergy, he's basically just that stereotype.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yes, I feel that, well, if it is essentially you two who run the vault, so to speak, then that's probably for the best. Besides, it's not like he'd dispute that it's the safest place for this artifact.
Yes, I believe so. The only people who normally have access to such a place, sometimes, occasionally, we allow the acolytes to perform ceremonies and they retrieve things from the vault, but I do not think anyone will find it suspicious if the vault is off limit for a time. It has been done before. There are merchants that have imported things that we have had requests to be sealed in our vault, and it has been off limits when that has happened before. So they would not find it unusual.
And it's probably the best that it goes down there.
I can arrange for that to happen.
Thank you. And then I guess I just fill him in on everything else that happened down there.
Okay.
I don't think anything else would require like a big discussion really about it.
Yeah. Do you tell him about like the secret chamber under the Tomb of Heroes?
No.
Maybe leave that bit out.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe
No.
that's not necessary.
Like the most I go into detail of that bit is we found the relic that we were looking for.
Okay.
We succeeded in our primary goal of getting down there in the first place.
Yeah, he questions if you mention the relic, he sort of questions about the relic and is sort of interested in seeing it.
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, I don't really see a reason not to. Because like Vondal trusts him, so I mostly trust Vondal's judgment.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Look, no, I mean, there's things that we disagree on, and those are the things I don't trust his judgment on. But like,
Yeah.
for the most part, like I trust
Like
Vondal.
the usefulness of the laws of the land.
So you pull the spear and sort of like hold it out in front of him, and he sort of regards it with a, again, sort of like a similar sort of awestruck curiosity, and he's sort of like, well, I must say I'm surprised. To see one artifact of our history today would be surprising, but to see two... Again, I feel like if this is an item of such legendary power, perhaps it would do better to not let the general populace know of its existence. I was planning to tell you once you had finished the story, but there have been a number of subversive elements active within the city in the time that you have been gone. The reason for the increased guard presence outside is that some anti-order messages were graffitied on the side of the cathedral. But I think perhaps if knowledge of that artifact were to come out, perhaps some of the more unsavory elements might try to latch onto it as a symbol.
Unsavory elements?
Yes, there are a number of people in the city that are unhappy with the political climate, who take a more disruptive and aggressive approach to taking out their frustrations. So far as I'm aware, it has not gone beyond a couple of graffitied buildings and some minor property destruction, but yes. Suffice it to say that they have been on the wrong side of the law for a little time, and there is a significant amount of concern that it may turn into something more, perhaps more dangerous than simple civil unrest.
There was more you wanted to share with us, or?
Yes. So, I do not know how to really explain this, but whilst you were gone, Carlos was quiet. He did not do anything for quite some time. He called in sick to a number of council meetings and generally kept low to the ground. But the other day he did something unusual.
Unusual how?
Well, for starters, he left the government building and was actually seen walking the streets, and actually drew quite a small crowd down in the trade quarter. Apparently there were some adventurers who had come back from the Forbidden City and had recovered a number of valuable artifacts, and he went out to visit them. He spoke to them for quite some period of time, and then, in a manner quite unlike him, stood up on a podium and lauded their successes, and spoke of the bold work that the mercenaries within the city were doing. I do not know much more than that, but it was just outside of his normal behavior patterns, and I thought I should note that it occurred.
Oh. If we can catch him doing something similar, can perhaps dispel this illusion.
He certainly seemed to be taking more of an interest in the deeds of the mercenaries of the city.
What happened to the artifact that they found?
I believe they are still in possession of it.
Oh, okay. Just making sure that he didn't decide to, acquire them. That might lead to some troublesome situations.
Do you know who they are?
Yes, I do, and he gives you the name of the mercenaries, which I have forgotten. The Stoutheart Companions, which, as this is mentioned, Tallithsyr perks up, because Tallithsyr has heard of them before.
Yep.
Shit.
Sarah's met one of them.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Yes.
And the thing happened.
Yeah. You're right.
Like, I guess what were the odds that they hired an actual nice group of mercenaries? Or yeah.
I guess this is a turn to Tallithsyr and something on your mind.
Yeah, she mentions that she has met a member of the Stoutheart Companions before, which I won't bother filling you guys in on because you already know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what it would accomplish, but do you think it might be worth talking to them?
I don't know what you'd find from them, but if we're looking into it, then well, it might be good to find out what they found.
Right.
Well, let's hope they don't recognize us. Or because I assume it's the same people we bar. Oh, it's the same group that we barged into, right?
What?
The mercenary group, right?
No, you're thinking of the wrong mercenary group.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of the mercenary group when we first met Tallithsyr. This is the
no.
mercenary group where one of their members approached.
Yes, the Stoutheart Companions is Rammus's band, the band that
Oh.
Rammus was part of.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, you're thinking of the wrong mercenaries.
Oh, okay.
Wait, am I still being really confused? I feel like this has been explained like a long time ago, and I'm still confused.
Okay. The Stoutheart
Wait, no,
Companions-
Cav,
No?
not about that.
Oh, okay.
Like, so I have the staff to the Forbidden City.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So where are these mercenaries going then?
To the Forbidden City. The
How?
Forbidden City exists in the real world, but it is sealed away inside the crystal to prevent the original denizens of the city from escaping.
Right, but when
Yeah.
people go into the Forbidden City, do I kind of have them in the staff?
I guess give me an Arcana check.
Weird.
No.
You guess? Because you're not fantastically familiar with pocket dimensions, but you have been in them before. They have to exist somewhere, but the somewhere is somewhat less important to what it actually is. So, yes, in theory, the city exists in a pocket dimension that is represented within the crystal that you possess. But when people go inside, they aren't really going inside the crystal, they're going inside the pocket dimension that the crystal represents.
Right, okay. So how do you get inside the city then?
You have never
Okay.
asked.
No,
Ooh,
wait,
yeah.
you just have to travel to it and go in, right?
But where is it? Where do we travel to get in?
You have never asked.
No, it's
yeah,
a
we
couple
never looked
days
in-
outside the city. We asked.
Yeah, we know where the Forbidden City is.
Oh yeah. You know that it's that the way you get in is somewhere outside the city, but you have never asked anyone how you get into the city.
Okay. Well, I guess I just assume you walk in.
Who knows? Anyway,
I mean, we could literally ask now, potentially. I don't know if Rarai would know that. But...
Rarai confirms that he has no idea how people get to the
Well-
city.
see, that's how we get to the other mercenaries, though. We go in and we're like, hey, we want to know about the Forbidden City because we heard that you had so much success and stuff.
The Stoutheart Companions are not currently in the Forbidden City. They are back here.
No, exactly. That's
No,
why
we
we
know.
go talk to them.
Oh
and
yeah.
be
Okay.
like,
Sorry, I
Hey,
misunderstood.
we want to find out. Also, we heard that you got talked to by this guy.
Yes, I
Government guy.
misunderstood. I'm sorry.
Oh, that should work.
Yeah.
Alright, we can. You can be a representative of the Amber Eagle.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Well, Thalithsyr does have an inn, so
Yeah.
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 Also,
There's,
are we
like,
keeping
I
the
know
staff
it.
like here, or am I keeping
Staff
it?
going
In the vault beneath the
Okay.
cathedral.
Got it.
Okay.
the vault beneath the cathedral that only two people can
Okay.
two people can access without express written permission.
In theory.
I guess
So-
I'm deleting that from my inventory then.
So you are handing it over to Raurai then?
Yes.
Don't fuck this up, buddy.
No pressure, but
Have
don't
faith.
fuck it up.
Have faith.
Okay.
Do we want to do an honesty check with Kelariis' rod? Or baton,
Really?
or what?
Oh.
I mean,
Look,
Is that
if
really necessary?
we are handing over an artifact of legendary power.
If it
To
bugs you
someone
that
who-
much, let's just follow him to the vault and watch it get locked away.
I don't know. I guess I'm just still uneasy.
Raurai just sort of like looks mildly concerned as you're having this conversation. He's like, if you would like, I can take you to the vault. I'm not sure an interrogation is necessary.
It's not so necessary. It's not the interrogation. It's more making sure that you can well be trusted.
You know, there's a
That
better
would-
way to do that. It's a spell called Zone of Truth. I think that's also sufficient instead of me pulling out my fucking
Yeah.
apparently kind of terrifying interrogation method.
Also, surely we could just look back and go, what has he ever done to make us distrust him?
Yeah. I mean, like, Raurai at this point is sort of like kind of hurt because he was like,
Yeah.
okay.
He's done
Like, I don't
literally
want-
nothing
Hurt his
but help
feelings.
us. Literally nothing but help us and give us information, and the first thing we do is we doubt him.
I mean,
I mean,
it's
the
also like a world-changing artifact.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in the defense of Mini/Grim saying that, like, I get the concern. So,
But like, it's more a case of we have the means to double check, so we might as well. Like although I guess we're already giving up on the whole scrying situation, so
Wow.
I guess why not give up?
I
on this
mean-
as well?
Do you have Zone of Truth prepped? Do you want to cast it?
I doubt anyone
oh,
has
fuck,
it prepped.
yeah, no.
No,
Ass.
Nope.
because believe it or not, when I was walking to go and talk with this guy who I trust really, really well, I wasn't expecting to have to use Zone of Truth on him.
I mean, guys, it's fine. Look, we have more important things to do than argue.
Yeah.
So do you want... He sort of sat there and is like, so do you want me to show you to the vault, or...
Well.
I
I'll
think if you
assume
don't mind, that might be nice.
I hope it will ease their tensions, so to speak.
He sort of... He gets up and then sort of says, one thing, I realize that a procession of people not usually resident to the temple proceeding down into the vault might come across as somewhat suspicious. Perhaps we should do this in small groups.
Well, we'll just send Vondal. That makes sense. If people.
Yeah, that would be slightly less suspicious. Just,
Yes.
I'm aware that the entrance to the vault is in a somewhat public area.
Yeah, we can wait.
Very
Okay.
well.
Unless we want to already go and find those people. While you go to the vault.
I mean, it will take him like 5 minutes to walk back into the
Okay.
cathedral, go downstairs, put stuff in, walk back up.
Right, well, yeah, then we can definitely wait.
Okay. Yeah, you guys wait upstairs in the cathedral as Vondal Raurai leads you into the basically like the back area for the priests and the clergy in the cathedral. And yeah, there are a number of priests and acolytes here, sort of like some of them robing, some of them disrobing, others carrying stacks of prayer books and incense around, and general back office cathedral busy work. Many of them sort of like greet Raurai and yourself sort of very courteously, because it's immediately obvious who you are. So yeah, it's sort of like there's Raurai with the member of the Order of the Golden Lion. That's somewhat unusual, but hello. Yeah, nobody really questions you. You get to a staircase which is flanked by a pair of town guards. He leads you downstairs into a very large, high-ceilinged room, which basically there's this sort of acts somewhat like a bit of a tomb as well. Like there's a number of notable individuals sort of entombed here, or at least there are ornamental sarcophagus detailing that they are entombed here. Members of the order, high-ranking officials, the standard sort of thing. At which point, Rara leads you down a corridor and around a corner into a slightly less high-ceilinged room that has a giant stone door. And I would like you to give me a history check with advantage.
Cool.
Because this relates to stonework.
I
Okay.
like stonework.
Cool. You have seen mechanisms like this before. This is not dwarven craftsmanship, but it is a very good imitation. And yes, underneath many of the Great Dwarf holds, there are vaults like these. These are fairly secure, because if this is constructed the way you think it's constructed, basically there is a... basically, once these stone walls are created, they are created with a gap in between the walls, into which is poured a thin layer of molten lead, so that magic cannot penetrate it.
Nice.
And yes, essentially, using a heavy key, Raurai removes the restraints that prevent the door from being rolled back. He hefts quite heavily on this heavy turning gear that sort of pulls the door aside enough for you to enter. And surprisingly, for a cathedral of this size and opulence, it is surprisingly empty. There is actually not a lot of valuables in here. It strikes you that the church may not be doing quite as well as the outside appearances might suggest. The coffers are running a little low. But there are a number of religious artifacts in here. None of them sort of there's no magic ancient swords or anything like that, which you assume is because the only one is being carried by Raurai, but yeah, there are a number of artifacts that sort of, as you go past them, you're sort of like, oh yes, I've heard stories about that. Like thigh bones of saints and all sorts of things like that.
Ah, the classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but are they like the actual real life equivalents of those in that they are completely fake, not at all real in any way?
Difficult to determine without a intense examination, but they hold religious significance, and that's enough of a reason for them to be in a vault.
Yeah, okay.
You do. Your keen eye does notice a couple of magic items as you go past, mainly things like magic candlesticks and things that are clearly used for certain religious ceremonies. And there's also stores of material components for certain cleric spells that you would recognize. Sort of the thing that they keep on hand for emergencies, like if somebody needs to heal someone. There's some material components there. But yes, taking a sackcloth from on top of a stack of older-looking books, Raurai places the staff on a shelf and then covers it with the sackcloth.
Excellent.
I take it that satisfies you.
I was perfectly satisfied.
Yes.
Having seen it for myself, I can very much assure the others that this isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yes. Forgive me. It's not my place to speak up, but it does strike me that they are perhaps a little less convinced of my intent to help as you are.
I think it is.
I don't know if it's you or just Rob's portrayal.
I think it is merely a combination of circumstances beyond your control. Both the innate paranoia that comes with what we have been doing for the last few months, and the innate paranoia that comes with what we've been doing for the last 10 days.
Yes. Do not get me wrong, I understand the need for caution and this level of subterfuge that I am somewhat uncomfortable with. I am just struggling not to take it personally.
You'll get used to it.
It seems I will have to.
Unfortunately so. For as long as there are people in this world who break trust, there will be those who cannot trust.
Of course, yes. Yes, forgive me, it is not the fault of your companions, it is merely circumstance.
Exactly. But I can now at least explain to them that, well, not only am I familiar with the way it is being housed, but also I would happily place many an item in here that could cause such destruction.
Well, we should seal it.
Of course.
Okay, so you step outside and the vault is sealed. Which point you return to the surface and rejoin your companions.
It is done.
Well, let's hope it works.
It will.
But on another note, we should probably get back to the inn before they decide to get rid of the stuff that we left there.
Possibly a good idea.
Yeah.
You want to go to the inn on your way through and pay your bar tab?
Yeah, that seems like a wise idea.
Okay, yeah, you can do that. What is the day tracker on your thing? 17, did you say?
17.
Okay,
Yes.
so...
I counted 5 days for the trip back up. So, yeah, 17 should be fine. Might be 1 day too much, but...
I think
well,
we can afford it.
yeah, so... By my maths... considering you're not paying for food or anything like that, it actually should only come to... it should only come to around 8 gold, actually.
Oh, actually, that works
Very
fairly
reasonable.
well. I'll just pay for it. There we go.
Yeah, I kind of have like no money right now as Arya.
That's because Grim is carrying all of it in the bag of holding.
Yes, but that's what we're gonna take care of the next this evening, I guess.
Okay. Well, it is, considering how long it took you to get to the surface, it is probably approaching evening now.
Okay.
So, I'm going to suggest a brief break, and you guys can decide what you're going to do here in town before moving to the next scene.
Oh, in case it matters, we also have this ornate inlaid lyre that we're probably gonna examine. I don't know if it's just ornate or if it's actually magical.
Can anyone actually play the lyre?
No.
We'll find out.
Yeah, so, cool. We will investigate that after the break.
Nice.